A Calvinist friend of mine recently said Thomas Aquinas and John Calvin were effectively saying the same thing in regards to double predestination. Is this true? Predestination is really over my head.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the question. No, they weren't saying the same thing. However, they were saying very similar things. They were saying similar things, but not the same thing.
Right.
So, St. Thomas clearly believes in the doctrine of predestination, as all Catholics do. And Thomas had a pretty strong, pretty hard doctrine of predestination. He thought that God gives grace to some that will effect their salvation infallibly in a way that he does not grant to all. Thomas did not think, however, that God specifically reprobates anyone to damnation. He didn't think that God picks people out specifically to damn them.
Yeah.
And Thomas did not think that grace overwhelms our freedom, so that one still has to freely cooperate, even with predestinating grace. So human free cooperation is part of God's providential design for our salvation. And Thomas also believed that the gift of perseverance in the faith, like the fact that you have received sanctifying grace, does not guarantee that you will continue in sanctifying grace. So some of the subtle differences with Calvin, or not so subtle, Calvin did in fact believe that God positively reprobated individuals to damnation, that he intended from eternity past to create souls for the specific purpose of damning them. That was Calvin's belief. Calvin also believed that grace once received could not be lost. So if you had grace, you would necessarily persevere to the end. Calvin also thought that you could know with certainty that you had grace. And that later became a kind of dogma of Puritanism, the doctrine that one could know for sure that one was elect and going to heaven. Catholic Church has always denied that we can have certainty that we're in the state of grace. So what that led to, in my judgment, sort of culturally and spiritually, major differences between having once been a Calvinist and now been a Catholic. When you are a Calvinist, you're sort of brought up to how important it is that you know you're elect, and they put a lot of emphasis on really assuring you that you know you're the one. You've got the stuff. You're going to make it. And because of the doctrine of double predestination, pretty much everybody else isn't. And while you might not know that some particular soul is reprobate, you would feel pretty cocky and assured that you could know they weren't saved yet. And so you're saved, they're not. Your job is to get them saved by any means possible. And so proselytism and a kind of arrogance vis-a-vis one's neighbor flows out of that rather naturally, right? That was my experience as a Calvinist. The Catholic position is, I don't know that I'm elect. I don't even know that I have grace. I don't know that you don't. And I need to take the log out of my own eye more than I need to take the splinter out of yours.
Okay.
That's my experience as a Catholic. I can argue with you about the meaning of a biblical text or the truth of the biblical doctrine. We can still have kind of a friendly antagonistic relationship about the truths of the faith or something. But I don't think that because I take one position and you take another, that means I'm elect and you're not. Whereas as a Calvinist, I would have sort of taken that attitude that, I'm on God's side. And I don't, as a Catholic, I don't think we have that. We can't put ourselves in that place.
Rather unhealthy, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I want to be on God's side.
Sure.
I pray to be on God's side. Like Joan of Arc said, if I don't have the grace of God, I pray that I will. And if I do have it, I pray I won't lose it.
Amen.